Hi there, my name is Ryan Matthews and I'd like to tell you about what I learned in this semester of Aboriginal education, policy and issues. I'm recording this today on Wanneroo land and I pay my respects to this land's people, both past and present. To help showcase my journey, I have created a learning map shown here. Unfortunately, I was not present for week 1's tutorial, so I took this opportunity to reflect on my understanding of Aboriginal education. In this process, I realised that my understanding was very limited. I thought about my experience in school and what pedagogies I experienced, however there wasn't any I could think of. This meant that I had a lot to learn, which made me very excited for this course. I hope to gain valuable insight into strategies I could use in my career teaching Aboriginal students. In week 2, we started with a getting to know session to meet our peers and our tutor. We discussed the history of Aboriginal education, most notably the exclusion on demand policy. The content from this week showed examples of the language used towards Aboriginal people. This is quite shocking to learn about and gave us all a new perspective on how education has failed these people. We also discussed the Aboriginal education policy, which showed us what we are striving for in our teaching career. In week 3, we filled out a worksheet that made us think about our current understanding and what we want out of this course. I'll come back to this later. We also furthered our discussion on the Aboriginal education policy by watching an interview with Natalie Pearson. In this interview, she outlined the purpose of the AEP, which is to improve the educational outcomes for Aboriginal students. We learnt that some ways this could be achieved is by increasing knowledge of Aboriginal history and culture, and consulting with Aboriginal families and communities. In this week, we also learn about another method to meet this goal, and that's personalised learning pathways. I had not heard about these prior to this tutorial, so this was especially interesting for me. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend week 4's tutorial, so I got someone to fill me in. We covered a super important topic, consulting with Aboriginal communities. Some ways to do this include viewing topics from an Aboriginal perspective, develop meaningful partnerships, and reaching out for support. There are plenty of places we can get help with connecting with the Aboriginal community. Our schools may have an Aboriginal education officer, Aboriginal community liaison officer, or Aboriginal education consultant. We could also go to the New South Wales AECG or local land councils for more information. Great knowledge from this week. In week 5's tutorial, we engage in a powerful and introspective discussion about racism, a topic that is both sensitive and challenging to confront openly. This session encouraged us to reflect deeply on our own thoughts, opinions, and actions, specifically questioning whether they held any biases or assumptions that could be perceived as racist towards Aboriginal people. The process was confrontational, yet necessary, as it made me recognise that even unintentional or subconscious biases contribute to the spread of racism. This tutorial taught me the importance of self-reflection to better my teaching. Skipping past week 6, when we had our presentations, to week 7. I found week 7's tutorial especially interesting, which is why I'm going to focus a little bit more on this week's content. We started by talking more on Australian history from an Aboriginal perspective, touching on culture and languages, concepts such as the dream time, explaining Aboriginal people's beliefs and ways of thinking. This led us to discuss intergenerational trauma, which is quite enlightening as it's a concept that I had very little understanding of. I learnt that because of this trauma, there is a distrust towards authority and institutions, unfortunately, even health services. This could lead to many health-related issues, one of them being otitis media. Otitis media is a middle ear infection that disproportionately affects Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, particularly children. This condition, which often goes untreated, can lead to hearing loss and associated developmental challenges such as delays in speech, language acquisition, and academic performance. This condition can go unnoticed and mistakenly diagnosed as lack of focus or behavioural concerns. This is just one example of issues that disproportionately affect Aboriginal people. This week's content taught me that it's important to be aware of nuances such as these health issues, not only because it helps us understand the unique challenges faced by Aboriginal students, but also because it enables us to approach teaching with greater cultural sensitivity and empathy. In week 8, we learn about Aboriginal pedagogy such as the 8 Ways. This framework emphasises the importance of incorporating Aboriginal culture perspectives into education by using methods that reflect Aboriginal ways of knowing, being and doing. The 8 Ways framework includes principles such as narrative-driven learning, community-focused knowledge sharing, and hands-on experiential learning. I found it valuable to see how storytelling and connection to place are integral, allowing students to learn through context and relationships rather than isolated facts. Learning about these methods opened my eyes to the richness of Aboriginal education practices and showed me how such approaches can create an inclusive, supporting environment that respects and celebrates cultural diversity in the classroom. In Week 9's tutorial, we focused on literacy and language, examining various strategies that can support Aboriginal students in developing language skills and literacy confidence. One of the strategies discussed was the use of yarning circles, a traditional practice that fosters respectful communication and deep listening. We also explored the significance of Aboriginal English as a recognised and valid dialect. Understanding the distinct grammar, vocabulary, and storytelling styles of Aboriginal English is essential in avoiding misconceptions about language proficiency. This session highlighted the importance of embracing culturally responsive practices that validate Aboriginal students' identities while supporting their literacy and language development through meaningful, respectful, and empowering methods. In catching up on Week 10's tutorial, I learned about Aboriginal pedagogies in mathematics, such as the Yumi Deadly Maths Philosophy and the Nyingba Kinship Exercise. The Uni Deadly Maths approach connects maths concepts to real-life, culturally relevant contexts, making maths more accessible and engaging for Aboriginal students. The Nyingba Kinship Exercise uses kinship patterns to teach mathematical relationships, helping students understand math through culturally meaningful structures. These methods highlight how integrating Aboriginal perspectives can make maths more relevant and supportive for students. In our final week of tutorial content, we reflected on what we have learned from throughout the course. We came back to the worksheet that I mentioned earlier. With this, we compared our understanding from the beginning of the course till now. After learning new pedagogies, pieces of crucial knowledge, I feel much more equipped to teach Aboriginal students by understanding the history, culture, and issues surrounding Aboriginal people. Thank you for sticking around. I hope this was both enjoyable and informative.